Chapter 10, Lesson 1, Volume of Rectangular Prisms. This goal of the lesson is to be able to find the volume of rectangular prisms. So in order to master this skill, you need to make sure that you are understanding the formula and that you're also able to apply it and then also work backwards. So if they're giving you parts of the formula, you need to find the missing dimensions. So if you can do all of those things, you've accomplished the goal. Okay, the real world link involves an aquarium. It says the dimensions of an aquarium are shown. So we have 3 feet, 2 feet, and 2 feet. Now before you just think to yourself, well, all I have to do is do 3 times 2 times 2 and get your answer and write it down. I want you to think about it a little bit more. So number 1, it asks, what is the area of the base of the aquarium? So I need to know where the base is. So the base is going to be this bottom here that I'm outlining. Okay, and what is the shape of that? That is a rectangle. Okay, so I always want to know the shape of the base. Okay, that's going to let me know what I'm going to be doing, what type of formula I'm going to be doing. Okay, so it wants to know the area of that base. Well, I know it's 3 by 2. And in last chapter, we learned about area of rectangles, and it was just length times width. So 3 times 2 equals 6 feet squared. Okay, so this whole area is 6. So if I stuck 6 1 by 1 foot cubes in there, I could fit 6 of them in there. Okay, so that's just the base. Now it says what is the height of the whole aquarium? That's right here. Now that's 2 feet. Okay, 2 feet. Now that's not squared because that's just a dimension. It's not the area. So now it says to fill in the blanks to find the volume. The length, 3, times the width, times the height. Okay, so basically you have this red square down here, which is 3 times 2, and you're filling it all the way to the top to see how much water can fit in that aquarium. So you take that base and you take it times this height, okay? And that's going to fill the whole thing up, and you're going to get 12 feet cubed, or 12 cubic feet. Okay, the volume of a rectangular prism. So remember, the base always tells us the shape. That's rectangular. Prism just means that it's going to be 3D, so I would connect that and make it a 3D figure. In order to find the volume of that, it is volume equals length times width times height. Or they write it volume equals the area of the base times the height. So they would say this whole thing, which technically is length times width, and then you take it times the height. Okay, so just keep in mind length times width times height, but it's also the same thing as taking the area of this base times the height to fill the whole thing. Okay, so there's 2 different things you can do there. You have some terms that you need to be writing down in your notebook. We have 3-dimensional figure. It has a length, a width, and a height. A prism is a 3-dimensional figure, and you can always write 3-dimensional as 3D, with 2 bases that are parallel and that they're also the same. So when you have like a rectangle and then the same exact rectangle, and then you connect them by parallel lines, that means it's a prism, a rectangular prism. Okay? This term, rectangular prism, the bases are congruent rectangles, so just what I drew up here. They would have 2 rectangle bases and then lines connecting them. Volume, the amount of space inside a 3D figure. So if I had a box and I filled it with water, or an aquarium, I figured out how much water I can put in by figuring out the volume. Cubic units, that's what we use to measure volume. So for area, if we had units, we would make it squared. But for volume, we cube it, which is a 3. So you would say cubic you would say the units are cubed or cubic units. That's the two ways that you could say that. So like I said before, you have these terms, get them in your notebooks. If you need to pause the video, go ahead and do that so you can get your terms down. If you want to write little pictures next to it to help you, go ahead and do that. Okay, our first example says, find the volume of the rectangular prism. So like I said, this is a rectangular prism because it has two rectangles that are the same, that are the bases, and then they're connected to make it 3D. Okay, so that's our rectangular prism. I'm just going to erase that so you can see it a little bit better. And then it says B, or the area of the base, is 10 times 12. So remember, your base is down here, and they're saying 10 times 12 is the area of this. 10 times 12 equals 120. Okay? And then they say the height is 6. So if I take that base times this height of 6, then it's filling the whole thing up. It's taking that one layer of base and bringing it up 6 times. So then I do 120 times 6, and I get 720 centimeters cubed. Okay, and that's the area. I want you to try these two problems and then find the area. Remember, it will be inches cubed as your answer and feet cubed as your answer. Okay, so our second example has a cereal box with the dimensions shown, 8, 12 and a half, and 3 1/4. And as you can see over here, they multiplied those three numbers together because you need to do the length times the width times the height. 12.5. And when you multiply that together, you should get 325. So there you're seeing that you just have to multiply the three numbers together. Make sure you do label that with the cubic inches. So that'd be 325 cubic inches. Okay? Try this problem down here. Use the three dimensions to figure out the volume. Our last example, it says find the missing dimension. Okay, so what they give us is they give us the length and the width, but they don't give us the height, and they do give us the volume. So if I have my formula, volume equals length times width times height, I'm going to use that to help me plug in my numbers. So my volume's 84, my length is 6, my width is 4, and my height is unknown, right? They didn't give us that part. So now I have an equation here that I need to solve for. My 84 stays the same. 6 times 4 I know is 24, so I'm just simplifying my equation, times h. Okay, then I need to take 24 divided by 24 on both sides to get h by itself. Okay, so that cancels out. 84 divided by 24 is 3.5, and that would be my h. So h should be 3.5 meters. That's what they're working with. And it's not meters squared and it's not meters cubed because it's just a dimension. It's just a length. It's not anything times each other. It's just one length. So it stays by itself. Okay? Down here is a problem where they have a missing dimension. They give us the volume, the length, and the height, but they don't give us the width. So use your formula, plug in your numbers, and then find the missing dimension, which is the width. Alright, so our final goal was to be able to find the volume of rectangular prisms. So if I was to ask you, how do you find the volume of a rectangular prism, you should be able to write this formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Okay? If I gave you three dimensions, let's say this is the rectangular prism. Not my best. Let's try that again. Let's say this was the figure I gave you. and I told you that the length was 6, the width was 7, and the height was 2. You should be able to find the volume of that. So what you would do is you'd take 6 times 7 and then times 2. So 6 times 7 is 42, times 2, 4, 8. You could tell me that it's 84 units cubed. So if you were able to do that. And then if I put a missing dimension in there, say I didn't give you the 7, and I told you that the volume equaled 120, you would be able to tell me what this width is. So you could do 6 times 2 is 12 times W equals 120, and you could tell me that W equals 10. So if you can do those 3 things, tell me the formula, find the volume given 3 dimensions, and then find a missing dimension, you should be able to master this lesson.